Welcome back to Chaos Corner. It's me. It's me. It's the GOC. Coming to you live to tape from the bunker. 25 feet below the surface of the earth. Here for part 2 of Bonecrushers and Backbreakers. All the right moves. A match made in heaven with Burt Randolph Sugar, Captain Lou Albano, a complete idiot's guide to the world of pro wrestling. No offense. Go back and check out the first part of this 2-part series. Fans, you're not going to want to miss it. I break down every hold. Remember, this is dated well over 2 decades ago and applies to current day here in 2023. You can't get to where you want to go or even where you are unless you recognize where you've been. Don't get stuck in the past, but look in that rearview mirror and then in the front windshield. It's full speed ahead. School is in session here with your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos. I'll say that to say this because I tell it like it is. Again, this is the second part in this series. Go back and check out. I just put up part 1 of Bonecrushers and Backbreakers, all the right moves. A 30-minute segment, a 30-minute show. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted, no Patreon, no paywall, no super chats. I don't ask you for anything. I give you my over 50 years of knowledge and my over 30 years of being in this fucking industry. Follow me on all social media platforms, and you know what they are. At Big Daddy GOC on Twitter in real time, and the GOC stands for the Guardian of Chaos. On Instagram, it's the Guardian of Chaos. There's 2 accounts on Facebook, J Brony. That's right, Jay Brony, and Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian. And of course, here on Guardian of Chaos on YouTube, the mothership. Punch in Guardian of Chaos on your laptop or your mobile device. Gitter, Gab, Truth Social, Rumble. I cover it all in the IWC. I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Fans, we're going to jump off all the other social media platforms. Come on back, man. It's early on a Monday morning. We are live to tape from Chaos Corner, and we're going to break it down here, fans. We just got finished going over a bunch of holds in part 1. This is just as good as going to a pro wrestling school. Write this down, take out your notebook, sit back and listen to what I have to tell you. You're not going to get the connection that you get here on Guardian of Chaos, on Chaos Corner. Let's face it, that's the way it is, and I tell it like it is. Here we go. Let's get right back into it. We already had the opening monologue on part 1. This is part 2. A plethora of pins, as I talked about in part 1. Pins are a classic way of winning a wrestling match. As you'll remember from the discussion of the rules in Chapter 5, go back here on the network. Almost 2,000 videos on everything in my career, from the heroes, the legends, the Hall of Famers, to the current stars, to the young lions, and everyone in between, because I cover every major organization, including my home at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. The backslide. This move requires that you get back to your opponent and hook both of his arms with yours. Drop down to your knees, leaning forward. This drags your opponent up over your back, from which position you can force him to slide over your head to the mat, where you pin his shoulders. Hello, anyone? Bueller, McFly? Anyone? Once he's pinned down, you brace your legs to keep him there long enough to get the all-important 1, 2, 3. Come on, guys, listen up. Do your due diligence. Do your research. The cradle. With your opponent on his stomach, you set him up for a camel clutch. See submission holds. By putting arms over your legs, stand while simultaneously pushing his head down. You end the move on your knees with your opponent's shoulders pinned to the mat and trapped under your legs. The roll-up. There are 2 versions, or there are many versions, really, of this one. In the bridging double leg pickup version, your opponent is on his back. You grab both his legs and do a forward flip, landing on your feet. In the schoolboy, or the fruit roll-up, as they say nowadays in 2023, you kneel down behind your opponent, reach through his legs with one arm, grabbing hold of one leg, lean in the opposite direction of the leg you've grabbed, pulling your opponent across your body so that he lands on his back, ready for pinning. Get it? Sunset flip. Jump over your opponent, grabbing him at the waist on your way down and rolling over his back so that he ends up sitting on the mat. Now pull him down onto his back, grab his legs, and use them to pin his arms flat. Bingo. The victory roll. Jump up to sit on your opponent's shoulders, facing the same way he is. Roll forward, reaching down to grab his legs and hook them over his shoulders, in effect, cradling him, the little bambino. This pins his shoulders to the mat. The suplex. Standing behind your opponent, take each of his hands into your opposite hand. That is, hold his left hand in your right hand and his right hand in your left. Hello? Anyone? So that his arms are crossed in front of his body. Pull backward until you've got him on his back on the mat for the pin. Let's go to Captain Lou's corner here on Chaos Corner. The suplex is a very popular hold and has been throughout pro wrestling's history. Used alone or in combination with other moves, it's one of wrestling's most versatile holds, as I said earlier. Thank you, Captain Lou. One of my biggest influences in my career as the GOC Big Daddy. Acrobats and aerialists. Today, many wrestling moves, especially here in 2023, AEW, so on and so forth, let me not get crazy, the independents. Instead, they're a blend of acrobatics and striking blows. Here's a sampling of some of the moves most popular with the fans. Now remember, this is well over 2 decades ago this was written, and it still applies to current day today. You guys know that. You understand that. Remember where you are. Be a carpenter. Put it back, which is what I'm doing here on Chaos Corner. Okay, here we go. The airplane spin. Lift your opponent up by the shoulder. Start spinning around to make him dizzy. Then drop him to the mat with a thud. Hello? The airplane spin toss. This variation requires that you lift your opponent up over your shoulder. This is called an inverted shoulder rack. Spin around a few times and then toss him into the air. Gravity takes care of the rest. The apron drive. Run down the ring apron and jump onto your opponent who's on the floor. Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, Dude Love, whatever, is known for his variation on this one called the Hip Buster Apron Dive Elbow Drop. Everybody has their name and their different variations of what they call it nowadays. The same move with 10 different, 15 different names. I get it, man, I get it. The arm breaker. With the opponent in an arm lock, step forward and drive him across your knees. Antonio Inoki Konichiwa, bitches, uses a variation in which he applied an arm or wrist lock so that he holds his opponent's arm over his shoulder. Then he wrenches the arm in an attempt to hyperextend the elbow. Ouch. The arm drag. Ricky Steamboat. He uses one which is known as the arm whip. Hook one of your opponent's arms and fall to the mat, pulling him down with you. There's nothing like a beautiful arm drag. The arm wringer. This one is also called a spinning wrist lock. Grab your opponent's arm by the wrist and twist it over his head and spin him. The atomic drop. Stand behind and slightly to your opponent's side. Grab his midsection with one arm and hook one of his legs with the other. Lift him up over your shoulder so he's parallel to the mat. Kneel slightly, dropping him tailbone first onto your knee. Say that 3 times fast. The backdrop, as we know. As your opponent charges towards you, bend forward. Dangerous maneuver. People underestimate this maneuver. When he reaches your position, grab him, stand erect, and lift him up over his own momentum, carries him to the land on the mat. Let me say that again. You lift him up and over, so his own momentum carries him to the land on the mat. Hello. Back first. You get it. This is commonly used to counter attacks where the opponent is bent over, say for a pile driver or a power bomb. Back fist, pretty self-explanatory. This is a standard martial arts blow. You hit your opponent with the back of your fisted hand. The back rake. Scratch down your opponent's back with your fingernails. This move is largely outdated, but Hollywood Hogan is still known to use it. So does Moxley nowadays in AEW. John Moxley with the old back rake. A lot of people have been talking about that lately. And as far as the spinning back fist, or even Eddie Kingston in current day AEW. The bell clap, commonly used to break a bear hug. You clasp your hands or forearms around the opponent's head, knocking him off balance. A bang! The body press. Jump at your opponent, hitting him at an angle and knocking him to the mat. Pretty simple. You guys get it. The boot scrape, one of my favorites. This is a spinning move used famously by Eddie Guerrero. Your opponent is on his back and you put your foot on his face as you lean forward to put more weight on that foot. You spin it around. The brain buster. Lift your opponent so that you're chest to chest. Now hook both of his legs so that you're up off the ground. Release one leg and with the arm you've just freed, tuck his head under your armpit. From there, fall backward, driving his trapped head into the mat behind you. Let's go to Bert's Corner. The modern move called the Backbreaker may have the same name as the submission hold, but it's a very different move. In this version, you lift your opponent up, then drop him across your knee back first. Bert's Corner here on Chaos Corner. The Bulldog. Holding your opponent in a headlock, run forward, then drive him down into the mat onto his face. The Choke Slam. Grab your opponent around the throat with one hand. Pick him up and then throw him onto the mat on his back. 98-pound weaklings need not apply for this one, you pencil neck geeks. Chop. Another blow taken from the martial arts. It looks like it sounds, and man, let me tell you something. Take a bunch of those and you'll see the blood and the welts bleeding from the inside out on your skin. Let someone chop you. Welcome to the world of pro wrestling. The Clothesline. Another one of my favorite maneuvers as a pro wrestling manager when I had the chance to use it. Stick your arm out, hitting your opponent in the front of his neck with it, but pretty simple if you've ever been clotheslined. The Corkscrew. This term describes any move that begins with you spinning around a la Hector Garza is well known for a move called the Corkscrew Planta Drive. No me joda maricón, muévete culo pendejo. Oh, you guys get it, right? The DDT. With the front face lock on your opponent, fall straight down or back. You guys get it. Driving his head into the mat, and there's 1,000 variations of it now, and everyone does it, and perhaps the best to ever do it, maybe Jake the Snake Roberts? What do you think? Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Get us in the algorithm. The double axe handle smash. Lock both of your hands together, then use them to strike your opponent a la the Polish hammer like Ivan Putski. Holy cramoly. Or modern day, later on in the Road Warriors. Does anybody even use the double axe handle nowadays? Anyone? I don't know. Yes, it's high tide. The surf is coming in. You can hear it. The drop toe hold. Drop down to the mat, placing one foot in front of your opponent's leg or legs and hooking your other leg behind him, thus tripping him and bringing him down. The drop kick. Jump in the air and kick out with both feet and your opponent. This attack can be focused on your opponent's head, chest, stomach, back, or legs. A la head trainer at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, Paul Roma. Go back and look on the network when Paul Roma drop kicked the 6'10" Big John Stud. Let that marinate. The first foot landed on his forehead, and Roma's second foot went over Big John Stud's head. How about that for drop kicks? The elbow drop. This is a simple fall onto your opponent. You just make sure you land on him elbow first. The elbow smash a la my man, the American Dream, the man of the hour, the man with the soul and power, the man who was too sweet to be sour, Stardust himself, Dusty Rhodes. With your back to your opponent, drive backward with your elbow to hit him on the head. Open a boop! A la my boy, I'm Rick James, bitch, the flamboyant Kenny Roberts from PAPW. The face driver. While standing, get your opponent's head into a scissor hold, then drop down and drive him face first into the mat. A la like a pile driver? Close. The fist drop. When your opponent is down, drop onto him. Fist first. Ted DiBiase, Hawk of the Road Warriors use this. Jerry the King Lawler. The flapjack. Lift your opponent up into the air as if you're setting up for a backdrop. But once you've got his body parallel to the mat, instead of tossing him over, push him straight up into the air. This way he'll land on his face and chest when he hits the mat. A la a Brody. Get it? He took a Brody. More classic holds here with the GOC. Chaos Corner. Live to tape from the bunker. Bonecrushers and Backbreakers. All the right moves. A match made in heaven. A complete idiot's guide to the world of pro wrestling. no offense. More classic holds. Stay with me. We're only 15 minutes in on part 2. It's amazing how simple some of the most effective holds are. Simple moves are still enough to get the job done. I try to preach that all the time, and this is what we try to preach down at PAPW, but it's like banging your head against a wall. But they don't produce the flash that fans want from modern wrestling. And this is 25 years ago. Think how it is now in 2023. The double arm lock. A double arm lock is a simple wrestling hold. Basically, a wrestler wraps both arms around an opponent's back and interlocks the hands. It's common for the attacker to pull the opponent's head close to his body, possibly under the armpit. This hold is rarely effective as a submission hold, but it could set up a wrestler for a fall. The toe hold. A toe hold can become a submission hold for sure. With a toe hold, one wrestler places pressure on his competitor's foot. Applied properly, it's very painful and difficult to break. The crab hold. The crab hold is an extremely effective submission hold. In fact, it's one of the most devastating holds in the ring. The wrestler sits on the back of his opponent, grabs both of his legs, and bends them backwards. It's nearly impossible to get free from a crab hold if the wrestler on top is large enough to maintain it. The figure 4, a la Ric Flair and everybody else. A figure 4 leg lock, as Greg the Hammer Valentine did a hell of a figure 4, is another effective submission hold. A wrestler gets an opponent to the mat, then ties up his legs with his hands laced between them. An attacking wrestler lifts the opponent's legs to pin the opponent's shoulders. There's more to it than that than the figure 4. The grapevine. An inside grapevine is used when the opponent is on his hands and knees. The attacker wraps a leg inside an opponent's thigh and over the back of his calf. Practice these at home. Get down to a training facility. Practice this in your local facility with a pro trainer that's qualified and legitimate. I can't stress that enough. This move can be used for a flip in an effort to gain a pin. The risk is that an opponent with superior strength might spin and roll to put the aggressor on the mat. The half Nelson. With the half Nelson, the attacking wrestler has an arm under the armpit of his opponent and hand clasped on the opponent's neck. The half Nelson is applied while the opponent has his other hand secured behind his back with pressure applied from the attacking wrestler. This move can be used on a wrestler who is standing prone or on the mat. A half Nelson can be used on its own, but isn't very powerful without additional restraint. One effective combination is the hammer lock into the half Nelson. Another variation is to use the half Nelson with a top scissors hold. Pretty important. The opponent is on the mat with the other wrestler's legs applying pressure on his legs and applying the half Nelson. Any half Nelson hold can be a submission hold. The leg split. It's pretty simple. The opponent is on the mat and the aggressive wrestler kneels on one of his legs while lifting the other leg to uncomfortable proportions. This too is a submission hold that works when applied by a larger, stronger wrestler. The leg holds. There are several leg holds. We all know that. The leg and arm lock is accomplished by applying pressure with both an arm and a leg to the arm of the opponent lying on the canvas. A better submission hold is the combination hammer lock and leg hold. In this move, an opponent is almost standing on his head. The aggressive wrestler puts one leg in a bad bend while bringing the opponent's arm to his back. The pressure can be intense and the submission is likely. An arm and leg hold is a standing hold that is used to bring an opponent to the mat. Hello? The aggressive wrestler uses both an arm and a leg to lock up an opponent in an attempt to put the opponent on the mat. I know I'm rambling through this and fast. That's because these are second nature, instinctual. Listen up, fans. Go back and hit the rewind to see what I'm talking about, to go through the steps one by one verbally here. I know there's no illustrations or graphics. That's why you go to pro wrestling school with a qualified trainer at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling and several others, as I froth on myself here. The front chancery, one of my favorites. A front chancery, a front face lock, guys, basically, is a standing hold used to set up other moves. In a front chancery, the opponent's head is locked under the armpit of the aggressive wrestler. Wrestlers may also combine the chancery and a bar arm hold, or as I would say, an arm bar hold. Both moves are standing moves and are not considered submission holds. Other old-time holds, as I look back, think back, include the flying mare, a reverse wrist and arm lock, a double wrist lock and head scissors, and a plain double wrist lock. Modern wrestlers have designed new and powerful moves based on these simple yet effective holds. And we'll examine those. Just like people in today's music industry that take the background beats and bumps and noises from songs in the 60s and 70s and try to put it in current day. It's the same concept here in pro wrestling. Think about it. Pro wrestling has become more acrobatic and flashy in an attempt to keep audiences on the edge of their seats. Remember, this is 25 years ago, and here we are in 2023, and we see it even more so than now. Look at the ratings, look at the numbers, look at AEW, look at the WWE, look at Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Look at what's going on, MLW, the NWA, even the independents, and you'll see how this applies. That's why this is such an important read. I can't stress it enough, guys and gals. In addition to chair bashing, chain slinging, and the use of chainsaws, modern wrestlers have modified proven holds to suit their styles. I've been saying it for this, the first part and this part through the whole podcast. They have also developed a lot of eye-opening moves on their own, especially here in 2023. Let's look at all the right wrestling moves. The octopus on your back, the giant swing, the backbreakers, WrestleMania. Sidebar here on Chaos Corner. Backbreakers are a favorite show-stopping move with many wrestlers. Jesse Ventura called the move a body breaker and invented and inverted the body vice. There is also the tilt-the-world backbreaker, a favorite move by Demolition Crush. Remember the date on this, fans. The Gator Buster. If you've ever watched an alligator, that's self-explanatory. Your basic clothesline, which we already went over. The pile driver is a very popular, perhaps because it's so dangerous. It was even outlawed at one time. The opponent is picked up with his head down and his feet skyward. The aggressive wrestler drives the opponent into the mat head first, which I spoke about several minutes earlier in different variations of what one move could lead into another move. The power bomb. Take a pile driver, add a touch of the suplex, and mix in a hanging backbreaker, and you've got a power bomb. Did I say bomb? I meant bomb. You know what Bully Ray said to me, right? You know who Bully Ray is? Busted Open Radio, so on and so forth. Give the Guardian of Chaos 5 spots he'll fuck up 4 of them. I'm proud of that. I consider that a compliment. Back to the power bomb. Because it's so damaging, most wrestlers frown upon the use of the power bomb. I believe one of the first grapplers to start using it, if I know my history, go back to OVW or Smoky Mountain and like Chris Candido or The Body, Jim Cornette, all back then. I believe maybe one of the earlier times. A sleeper, which we already discussed, sometimes called a Weaver lock. The great Johnny Weaver, who created the sleeper hold, can put the lights out on anyone if caught in it. And I talked about that already. Pressure applied to the neck and the head results in seeing stars, and then it's total darkness. The body slam, which we did cover. Wrestlers have had to use their stunt skills to pull off the pile driver without injury. If they attempted a pile driver for real, they could kill their opponents. We discussed this. Given painful moves like the pile driver, is it any wonder that most serious pro wrestling injuries are neck-related? Sidebar on the body slam, talking about the pile driver. Dusty Rhodes used to apply the sleeper hold on the Four Horsemen. And another sidebar here on a complete idiot's guide on Chaos Corner. Over the years, there have been variations of the sleeper, such as the Dragon Sleeper, which is an aggressive wrestler clasping his hands behind an opponent's back and squeezing. The Weaver lock. Slingshot. The slingshot requires the use of the ring ropes. A wrestler grips the ropes, leans back, and flies into the ring, landing on his opponent. Or sometimes as you pull him in the hard way to reverse it. I like that. Bring them in the hard way. Some fans call it a splash, others call it a swan dive. Most people think of the move as a slingshot. And we already discussed the legendary, one of my favorites, the stump puller. I just like saying stump puller. Professional wrestlers utilize many moves and holds throughout their careers. During their time in the ring, wrestlers gain confidence in moves and holds that are guaranteed winners. That's why they're called finishers. Although today you'd never know it with all the false finishes and everybody's finisher and people kick out of it. I mean, how embarrassing. I'm just giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly. My opinion, my channel. The following list shows some of today's top wrestlers and the finishing moves and holds that they use time and again. And again, remember when this was dated and the grapplers I'm going to talk about. Everyone from Kevin Nash and the power bomb to the tomahawk chop by Wahoo McDaniel, the fist drop by Jerry Lawler, the claw by Killer Kowalski, the bear hug by Ivan Koloff, the leg drop by Hollywood Hogan, the drop kick by Kurt Hennig, the bear hug by Billy Graham, the neck breaker by Jimmy Garvin, of course, the figure four by the Ric Flair, the step over arm bar by Ultimo Dragon, the Bob Backlund atomic drop, the stunner by Stone Cold Steve Austin, and the standing arm bar by Ole Anderson, just to name a few. I'll be here forever on this list. We can go through a whole bunch. The diamond cutter by DDP, the elbow drop by Dusty, the backbreaker by Antonino Rocca, the figure four by Buddy Rogers. Where do you think Ric Flair got it? The bear hug from Bruno Sammartino. Several variations of the bear hug, as we know. The camel clutch by the Iron Sheik. The Boston Crab grapevine sharpshooter by Sting, a.k.a. Bret Hart. The leg drop by Booker T, the spinneroonie. We can go on and on. While the wrestlers above have been noted for their signature holds, they may well develop other moves as they continue in the ring. Wrestlers often add to their arsenal as they grow in the business. You can bet that pro wrestlers have more than one or two winning moves, especially today, which is 5,000, all the better to defeat their opponents. An editor of wrestling magazines and a man who has his finger on the pulse of the sport, Michael Benson, go back and do your research. When asked to name the 5 most popular holds, moves in modern wrestling, here is what he said. I don't know if I'd ask a writer or Dave Meltzer or this guy here, Michael Benson, or anybody else in the industry. Why don't you ask someone who's been in the ring, who's been in the business, right? The figure four leg lock. Ric Flair has used this hold with the most effectiveness in modern wrestling. I can agree with that. The sharpshooter. Bret Hart uses it and used it to thrill fans, and Sting uses the same hold, but it's called the Scorpion Deathlock. Valid observation. The sleeper, we've already covered it. The torture rack, I guess you could say Lex Luger used it as good as anyone. The claw, made famous by Killer Kowalski, Fritz Von Erich. This move should rank as in the top 5, I'm not sure, but it's rarely seen in modern day wrestling. I'll say that to say this because I tell it like it is. Ask any fan to name his or her favorite holds or moves, and you might see a very different list, especially today in 2023. Every fan has his or her own opinion of what the best moves and holds are and the most dangerous or effective. The best hold or move is one that works. That's what I've always said. And thrills a wrestling audience. That's what I've always said. Pro wrestlers experiment to combine effectiveness with crowd-pleasing potential. And no doubt the great moves and holds of the ring will continue to excite viewers and win title belts. And that's a perfect example of today, whether you watch the independent wrestling scene or the bigger organizations. I can't stress it enough. Bonecrushers and Backbreakers, all the right moves here on Chaos Corner. It's been an unbelievable read in this chapter, and we'll move on to more chapters. Go back, as I said, here on the network, here on the Chaos Corner and Guardian of Chaos YouTube channel, and you'll see all the different things that I cover here on the channel, especially when it comes to this all-important book, illustration, and my knowledge combined. I feel like I wrote this book. So I can't stress it enough, fans. The least you need to know here on Chaos Corner, as we're coming up on almost 30 minutes. So we did a full hour in 2 parts on Bonecrushers and Backbreakers. It doesn't get better than this. Classical wrestling relies on submission holds, which are still used in modern wrestling. Modern wrestling has become much more acrobatic than earlier wrestling. Classic holds, including the toe hold, the crab hold, and the half Nelson, among others. Modern wrestling moves including backbreakers, slingshots, and sleepers. Some modern moves, such as power bombs and pile drivers, are too dangerous to use in the ring. These moves are often faked as stunts. And I can go on and the least you need to know. But again, fans, I can't thank you enough for being here on Chaos Corner. The second part of this, all the right moves, the inner and outer workings of the ring, Bonecrushers and Backbreakers. I've covered a multitude of things here on. Go out and get this. You won't regret it. And with my knowledge, this is where you want to be. With the GOC in Chaos Corner. Don't go anywhere. I'm not done yet. So thank you guys. Did I say thank you? Thank you guys for being here. Entertainment personified. It's a big week coming up this week. I'll be back on the channel. It's WrestleMania week leading into WrestleMania. What is it, 39 coming up next weekend? Or this weekend, actually. Nights 1 and 2. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, so on and so forth. The Usos. We have AEW Dynamite coming up this week. There's a lot of things going on in the other organizations, from Ring of Honor, and I believe they have a super card as well this weekend. We just came off of a successful event on PAPW this weekend in the independent scene with the Paradise 4. A lot of great things happening in the world of professional wrestling. NWA, Impact, MLW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, AEW, and the WWE, because that's me, the GOC. Don't you dare miss it.